Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. I'm Holly. I'm here with Frank.
I'm Frank, and I'm here with Holly.
Oh!
Did you see the switch up there, Holly?
I loved it.
Of course you did, because I introduced Holly. And I guess it's Holly. No.
Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me be as a visitor on here.
Yeah.
Hey, I will say something I did find interesting last evening is I heard on I don't want to promote them, but a late night radio show.
Yeah.
Talking to a hospice nurse that had written a book and was sharing some of the experiences that she had with regards to passing individuals from life into death.
Really?
Very interesting.
Oh my gosh. She beat you to it.
What's that?
She beat you to it.
No, not really. Because totally two different genres. Because mine is after death. Hers is the passing from life to death.
Oh, okay.
So
the transition.
I didn't really. Some of it was good. Some of it I didn't agree with, but that's okay.
Oh, did you read it?
No, I listened to it while I was driving around in the evening picking up individuals.
Oh, okay.
It was a radio show. Which, by the way, reminds me that that's my goal, to be on that radio show.
Is it really?
Yes.
What?
What? I think they could learn something. I think they would find it interesting. But I love the show. I'll talk to you after and maybe as producer Caden goes through live, you might want to just reach out and say, hey.
Hey.
You may want to listen to this podcast. Think if you think they'd be interested in having them as visitors or guests on your show.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And for some reason in my head, I was thinking you were wanting to be the host of the show.
No.
Like, wow, this is just a stepping stone for you, isn't it?
That's right, Holly.
Anything it takes to get to the radio show.
Everything in my life has been a stepping stone. So anyway, that's good. Yeah, anyway. I just found it interesting. I heard it and I thought, why aren't we on that show? We could probably give him a good plug here and there. And she had a good hour and a half interview with him.
Oh wow, that's a bit.
Mm-hmm. So
well,
if they do call me, what's that?
I said stay tuned, coffiners.
We'll see what happens. But Holly, if they called and asked me to be on there, I couldn't go without you. So it's a 2 for nothing. It's a 2 for 1 or nothing.
The both of us or the none of us.
That's right. Take that.
Take that.
Okay. Anyway, how was your week? How was your week?
It was good.
Good.
This week was pretty busy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've just been hanging out, enjoying the downtime that we've had. We went mini golfing with a couple of our friends, which was really fun.
Was it the one that I was supposed to go to when I was out there?
Yes. Yes. It had just opened up from being renovated. So I guess you'll just have to come back up to mini golf.
That can be arranged. Yeah, I'll just come up to mini golf. Hey, Holly. Hey, Caden. Sorry, I've got a ticket. I've got to go.
You can stop in if you want, but the priority is the golf.
That's right. That is one.
How was your week?
It was good. It's been good. We've had, I'm going to be honest with you, a rash of babies.
And a rash?
A rash of babies, meaning that so usually we might get 2 a month. This week we got 6.
6?
In this week.
Oh.
Isn't that sad?
That's so sad.
Ugh, I don't like babies. I just have a hard time dealing with babies.
I feel like that would be the hardest thing to do.
Yep.
hardest services to work.
Yep. We've already had 2 services on 2 of the 6, and I don't know if we'll have anything on the other 4. I think maybe they're just a straight cremation, but yeah, it's been a very interesting and emotionally draining week for me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. So that's your least favorite as a mortician
It is. It is my
type of
least
death.
favorite. It is. It is. Anyway, that was my week.
Anything good happen?
Oh yeah, Scott came over and helped me.
Oh, with all the babies or what? With what?
With a larger woman, because it's,
Oh.
as we've talked about this is about weight before, but usually I get a little scared when I put them on a lift because they can easily topple.
Right.
And I like that. I want to make sure I have some stability. And so Scott was willing to come over and help me create that stability, help me get her dressed and everything. So yeah, kudos to Scott. You'll hear more from him, I'm sure, next week, but I was grateful that he came over and helped.
That's nice of Scott. He's trying to earn his keep.
Oh, for what? He no longer lives here.
He no longer. Yeah, he's still. We're still testing him out.
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. That's fair. Yeah.
So he's earned his keep for another week of phone funeral.
Next week he'll say that he's on level playing field now.
Yeah.
Nothing more that he has to keep up with. He's done.
I've made it. So yeah, maybe we'll have to ask Scott about that.
Yeah.
A question for Scott.
Write it down, Holly. Write it down. The question for Scott.
I'm going to text him right now.
I'm kind of excited about it because he was telling me that he's been receiving a lot of questions. So that's good.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that will be fun.
Well, should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. It's this week's Let's Be Frank.
Hi, Holly. Thanks, Holly. So I want you to think back for just a minute and tell me how long ago it was and to what degree you felt anger.
Anger?
Anger.
Oh, man. It was this afternoon.
Isn't it funny? Because I was thinking back too, and I thought to myself, if I ask Holly this question and she reported back to me, I think, oh my gosh, I'll be so embarrassed because it was this morning.
Oh, yeah. No, mine was, I don't know.
For me, it was
an hour ago.
Oh, wow. Sorry.
I was so angry.
Was it me?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
It was because I got this. Okay, so I have had the privilege my entire life of not really having to deal with allergies.
Yeah.
But for some reason this season, I was talking to Kate and I was like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like there's something in my throat and I can't cough it out. Like it's the sort of tickle in your throat that you get sometimes.
Yep.
And I have the worst headache. And he's like, I will just let you know that I have had horrible allergies today because apparently it's a really high pollen count day. And I was so angry that I have to deal with allergies. And I realized that makes me sound so spoiled, and I am. And so I have the most sympathy for people who deal with allergies on a daily basis, like my husband, who has to take an allergy pill every day just to function and not have that. Oh, it's horrible.
It is. So anyway, yeah, I think that's interesting that you experienced that this morning. And it's interesting that pollen is what caused you to be a little on the ire side.
I honestly, I don't have a lot of things that get me really angry. Mm-hmm. But the things that get me really angry are just such the smallest little dumb things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Whenever something like that comes up, it just irks me to nothing else.
Yep. So mine this morning was simple and in the effect that I was hoping for just a quiet day. Then we had a little bit of a upheaval in the family, which Lisa had to leave town for, which is fine.
Family emergency, yeah.
But as soon as she left, I got bam, 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 3 first calls right in a row, and I just thought,
oh my gosh.
I was able to go to church, able to take the sacrament there, but when I got home and realized that Lisa was just getting ready to get on the plane, I thought, oh, good for her. And then the phone rang. I got a call, got him back to the mortuary, another call, back to the mortuary, another call.
Oh my
I
gosh.
just don't like it when my days are like that. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, good, I've got kind of a relaxing day. And then tomorrow being a holiday, happy Memorial Day, everyone. But,
Yay.
but tomorrow being a holiday, I'm thinking I should have the full day off, but I have service tomorrow.
You have a service tomorrow?
Yes.
Is it a veteran?
No.
Oh. If it's not a veteran, why are they doing it on Memorial Day?
Because all the family's here because the baby passed away.
Oh.
This is my
now
third.
I feel bad.
Yeah, this is the third
That's
funeral.
the third baby.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway,
bad.
it is too bad. So let me just bounce back to what we talked about a week ago, and that was where I was going into the cooler and doing my normal thing about addressing individuals that are there and calling them by name and just kind of saying, kind of letting them know that I'm still aware that they are there and things are working. Even though sometimes it's maybe slow, it's still in the process. And I just remembered going in one particular morning, the day after I picked up this one particular individual, and there was like a wall of negativity.
Oh, really?
That was right at the door of the cooler. And so when I opened the cooler, usually I can go in and just feel almost nothing but comfort. And I walked in and I could feel that there was a little bit of a, I don't know if I could describe it as a bristle feel in the air.
Uh-huh.
So does that make sense to you? Does that help you understand?
Bristly as in like tension?
Tension. Yeah, there's some tension in the air. And so I went on ahead and I put my hand on this one guy's shelf, and I could actually feel, and I don't know if it was a vibration specifically or not, but I felt some sort of a tremor, vibration, some sort of a passage of energy from the table onto my hand. And I just thought, well, something's wrong here. And I just looked at him and addressed him and I said, someone didn't have a good day. That's the way I put it, because obviously he wasn't having a good day. Something was happening. Even though I addressed him, he was angry, and I could feel that it made me feel as though I wasn't giving him the attention he needed. So to me, I just closed the door and I thought to myself, well, what in the world? I've got to go back and kind of hesitate or kind of research a little bit about how this gentleman passed away. Well, let me give you that little background. So he passed away at home. He was found by a caregiver, not the person that lived with him. So the caregiver called the cops and went on ahead and had the cops come over to the house, which is normal. Cops will come to the house and then they'll go ahead and do a research, just a little scanning of the area to see if there was any foul play at all. And if the person committed suicide, they'll look for pill bottles, gut wounds, whatever the case might be, but they have to do a little bit of an investigation work before they will allow the mortuary to be released. Part of that is to call the medical examiner and let them know what they're finding, and then the medical examiner can go ahead and say, okay, we're going to accept this case, we're declining this case. This particular matter, they declined the case because they didn't think that there was anything.
There was no foul play.
Right. They didn't think that there was anything of worth that would cause them to have to bring him into their care. Okay. That being said, hopefully everyone, coffiners, you've been listening to other episodes, you know exactly what we're talking about. So I went on ahead and I called the companion or the person that was living with him and asked specifics, saying, hey, I understand, he passed away at your house. Can you kind of give me some background to his passing? Was he sick? And she says, I have no idea. She said he was healthy, was doing really well. He was on medications for diabetes. And what was the other thing? Oh, high blood pressure. But she said that he was doing well. He just had a checkup 2 days ago. They said he was doing really well, keep doing what he's doing. And then this morning I get a call saying that he's passed away. She was out walking. So, while she's out walking, she gets a call from the caregiver saying that she had found him passed out and dead on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
Since that being said, the domino effect started, where that's when the cops became involved and so forth. So I just thought, well, that's kind of weird because, she's telling me that there was nothing odd that was taking place within his regimen that would
Right.
create some sort of a health issue for him to have actually passed away. So when she hung up the phone with me, I thought, And so I went back into the cooler and I just kind of sat there, and still that anger, anxiousness, animosity, stress, however you want to describe it, there was that wall still there. And I said, hey, help me understand. And I just said, help me understand what it is that's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was spoken, nothing was said, or at least that I could hear. Nothing moved, no sensations, but the vibrations were still there. So I went back out and I called the medical examiner. And I said, hey, could you just tell me, were you notified on the death of so-and-so? And they said, yes. And I said, is there a reason why you didn't accept him as a case? He said, no reason to. He's got prescription bottles there next to him. There are 2 doctors that said that would sign the certificate. And I just said, oh, okay. All right. Now, if you'll think back to a couple of other episodes, and I'm pretty sure that I've mentioned this in other episodes, but if a person dies pretty quick, and it was from trauma, there's no bruising, but embalming will create a bruise. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
You remember that, right? So if the tissue is destroyed or damaged, and the person passes away quickly, there wouldn't be any trauma noted on the body until the embalming takes place, because then the embalming can go in and press and set the bruise.
Right.
So I just thought I had an idea. I just thought, well, maybe if he's that angry, and he can't be angry at me,
right,
something has happened that's created him to be angry. So I called the partner and I said, hey, if I gave you an embalming, would you allow me to embalm him? And then you as a family could come down and see him. That's the way I couched it. Oh, he said, I'd do it for free for you. And, we'll just let you go ahead and handle the family viewing if you wanted to have him viewed. She said, that would be very nice. Bingo. All right. So I called. Okay, here we go. So I pulled him out. I pushed him out of the cooler, put him on the table, and embalmed him. And I couldn't figure it out because nothing was happening. I mean, usually it's a pretty fast demonstration of bruising. If there's a bruise that shows up, it's going to show up pretty quick.
Really fast.
Well, yeah. And so I couldn't see anything, but he was on his back. So I rolled him to his side, and there was like in the shape of a foot pressed against his back.
Shape of a foot?
Yeah. In the shape of a shoe that was pressing on his back.
Oh my gosh.
So I called the medical examiner and said, hey, I just thought you should know that there is some bruising that's appearing on this gentleman from the embalming process. Oh, really? Where's it at? I said, on his back. Oh, okay. Well, let me talk to the investigators and see what we can do. So went by, nothing. And so finally I called him and said, what have you decided to do? Are you going to do anything? And so it ended up where they finally were willing to take him into their care to do a simple autopsy.
Yeah.
Well, when they did the autopsy, they found that not only did they see the bruising on the backside, but, a lot of the organs, they like to have the autopsies done before an autopsy or before the embalming is done, because embalming can penetrate the organs and create misreadings on organs. So when they saw the bruising that I had described to them, they went on ahead and they did the autopsy and had discovered that he had been kicked so hard in the back that it ruptured one of his discs. And I don't know how this happens, but the disc then bifurcated or cut his nervous system along the spinal column.
Yeah.
And apparently he had become, it was so hard and forceful that it paralyzed him. Through the paralyzation, he died. And so they went on ahead and they went further in their investigation and started looking at the shoes of different people that would be admitted into his home.
Yeah.
So the first one, of course, was the companion, right? Uh-huh. So you wanted to see her foot size and the shoes and see what was happening there. And of course, that didn't match. So they went on to the next culprit, who they would consider the next culprit, and it was the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And again, no match on the shoe. So they kept going and they kept asking the caregiver and the companion who else had access to the apartment or to the home where he was at that he would allow as a friendly into their home. And they said, well, nobody. No one.
What?
No one would. There would be no one that would be allowed into the house that he would not allow except for me, she's talking, me as the companion, and of course the caregiver. So as the investigation continued, there was another person that went in, and it was the caregiver's boyfriend.
Of course.
Of course. And so what had happened is the caregiver's boyfriend had noticed money, and and he went over to grab the money, and the gentleman tried to stop him.
Yeah.
And then received a kick to the back and pushed him to the ground, and that's how he ended up dying. So it's interesting to me that when you have this particular case, so I went on ahead, we brought him back into the mortuary, and I put him back onto the shelf, and I walked in there and I said, I hope that this will be justice for you. And I can't help but feel that he had to have some sort of a inkling or an idea of who it was, or that he didn't just die haphazardly, that someone actually killed him.
Right.
And he wanted to make sure that people knew that. And I found that very interesting, because if I hadn't been a little more in tune to what was happening in the room, nothing would have happened.
You wouldn't have found anything out.
And what was interesting to me is a companion had promised a portion, because apparently this caregiver had been with them for years. And so the caregiver wanted to know when he was going to be cremated so that they could have a portion of his cremated remains.
Oh, but my gosh.
It wasn't that they wanted the cremated remains. They wanted to make sure the evidence was cremated. Do you see what I'm saying?
So the caregiver knew the whole time?
She was there. She was there when it happened.
Oh my gosh.
And she refused to tell the officers when they started to do the investigation that her boyfriend was even there.
Yeah.
So when she saw that, and so she then became an active party, recognizing that, oh my gosh, I could be in trouble too.
Duh.
Yeah, so the fastest and the best thing to do would just be, come on, Mrs. So-and-so, has he been cremated yet? When might that happen?
Let's just cremate him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so when is that going to happen? And then I can only imagine that when the medical examiner contacted her and told her that there was going to be a physical examination on her husband or boyfriend, it was a companion, that there would have been, true terror.
Oh, yeah.
Passing through the caregiver and her boyfriend.
Absolutely. And
so when that occurred, when they had found out, all of a sudden they come up missing, no longer in the picture, but yet she knew where they lived because they had been there for years. She had been coming into their home for years, and so she told the cops where she lived, and then upon further investigation and questioning, that's when she finally admitted that her boyfriend had actually kicked her in the back through just a big shove. And legs can be powerful. My gosh.
Oh yeah.
You kick somebody, you can throw somebody with your legs. So, and he was just an older, frail man.
Oh.
Defend his own little habitation.
Right.
And ended up being killed for it. And who wants to be robbed, especially at that age? He came from a generation where you're thinking, no, you're not going to come into my house and steal my things.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Who's thinking, go ahead, take whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, justice, I guess, was served, but the long story, the end of the story is to let you know that there was I did not feel any more stress, anxiety, anger, when I walked into that room. So I knew that everything was at peace, and that
good.
And that maybe he felt that justice was finally delivered, and to the point where he could actually not die in peace. Is that
Move
proper?
on.
Yeah, move on. And so, anyway, I just found it very interesting and can I just tell you that it made me do some introspection, thinking, what other things did I overlook? When when you get
Oh,
when you get
yeah.
and all of a sudden you just think, you just push it out of the way. But this one was different. It was it was so stark from the previous day when we had received the call, when he put in the cooler, and then the next day it was it was night and day. And so it definitely grabbed me. And I mean, there could be mild or timid interactions or different feelings that you could have.
Right.
This one was definitely do not overlook me. I've got something to say. My body has something to say. And so, yeah, do what you need to do or can do to make sure that my body's looked at.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was today a very interesting story for the way that was teased a week ago about the anger issue. And this is one I did not really want to share on the podcast. This is something that I find easier to write because I can give more description. But I just, since you brought it up and we're mentioning that, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this. Great tease. So that's the reason this episode. So Coffiners, I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think of that one, Holly?
I think that's crazy. So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that there was like a wall that you had to pass through, did it actually feel like you had to go through something physical?
Yeah, there was definitely something. It was, okay, I'm going to liken it to, you've been to a haunted house before, right? And all of a sudden you can be breathing fine, and all of a sudden the breath is it's harder to take the breath because of either the steam machines, the fog machines.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? You're walking through it and all of a sudden you're restricting your breath.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of how I felt when I walked into that room, that something was that dense, and that condensed and dense in that area, that something was wrong. And so, and like most know, I don't have a good sense of smell, if at all. And so I couldn't pick up on smell. And maybe that's the reason why the shortness of breath became more of an issue for me than odors.
Right. Huh. And you said that the shelf that he was on was like vibrating?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I liken that to and the only reason I think it was vibrating is because sometimes when you get so spitting mad that you vibrate a little bit.
Shake.
Yeah, you shake. And I think that's what was happening to his spirit. I think he was just to the point where he was
so mad.
Yeah, he's putting his hands on his own body and just shaking. I should have had another year and a half here.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so I think a little bit of anger issue going on there.
Huh. Have you had a lot of experiences where like a spirit can affect the physical realm like that? Like where it's physically shaking something or...
Oh, yeah. We've had some of those episodes, and just as a review, remember that when in a given mortuary lights were out and there were doors that were shaking. Well, there's another episode we should probably do where an exterior door was shaking, trying to get into where I was at, and I just wasn't going to have any of it. And then scratching sounds outside as I was leaving. It just wasn't a good thing.
Oh, that's all one experience?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I thought those were separate experiences.
No.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be another little teaser for our coffiners. Come back and listen to the
all right, you'll have
scraping sounds.
Scraping sounds. Scraping sounds. And this one did, and I don't get spooked much, but this one did bother me just a little bit. And only because of the sound and witnessing the sound, but not seeing the sound or what's making.
I hate that too. Mm-hmm. I hate when I can't place or understand why a certain sound is happening.
Yes. And so that's what that's what was happening here at this particular one. And it's again, when you start looking at the environment and the atmosphere in which the whole thing occurred,
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's all right. It worked. It still happened, and it's still done, and I'm here. It's safe. But
Right,
at
but
the time, you just
doesn't
didn't.
take away how scary it is.
Yeah, you don't know if you're going to make it through. So
Wow.
yeah.
So that was one where you actually felt like your life was threatened.
I don't know if it was my life felt threatened as far as my mind couldn't grasp what was happening. Because usually my mind, I can think things through.
Yeah.
And on this particular moment, my mind may have eventually caught up to my adrenaline flow,
Right.
but it did not, at the time that it was happening, it did not allow me to process. So
Yeah, 'cause how do you when it's in the moment?
yeah, therefore I think my mind was racing, and it became more of a scary option or issue for me.
Yeah, your brain is just saying, "Get out of here as fast
Yeah,
as you can."
yeah, and that's kind of it. And that part of that story I'll tell you too is the exit, going through the exit or going to the car for the exiting, and then having an additional experience while in the car just didn't didn't sit well.
Didn't care for that.
No, it
Didn't
didn't
sit well with me.
And that's okay. That's all right. But if we do that one, that'll have to be, of course, after the week of Phone a Funeral, because I think that's next week, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
We've got to give Scott his time.
Yeah, coffiners, just keep that in mind. And if I forget, sorry. But if I'm sure Holly will remind.
You better believe it.
You better believe it. So what else? Any other comments on that one, Holly, at all?
I think it's just insane that you got this premonition from this man, and then it ended up that he was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
This old man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that's just heartbreaking, especially just the way that he was killed. That is so brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just kept thinking, well, surely he's got to have a bruise on his chest, on his arm.
Right.
Thing, but yeah, nothing. And then it just in the back, I thought to myself, well, what about his back? And there it was. So,
do you usually flip people over? Like, I'm sure to get them dressed, you have to maneuver them, but would you have possibly missed that if you didn't get the feeling to like, what about his back?
Yeah, sometimes when the individuals are smaller, I mean, you do have to, during the embalming process dictates that you wash down the entire body. So,
right.
So even though they're they're usually on blocks, so they're not specifically directly on the table. So I can take my arm, I don't have to look at the back. I can just take my arm under the back and just wash it because it's elevated from the table. But this particular case, I had the impression to just move the body, turn the body. So yeah, you're right. I don't normally do that, but where they're elevated, the back is usually washed, but you never look at. I mean, for the most part.
Right. What would you need to for?
And the only other time that you would really look at the back is if there was a decubitus ulcer that you weren't aware of, and you run your hand or a sponge or whatever else what you're washing, and all of a sudden you feel that indentation in the skin.
Yeah.
And so you can pull it back, and then you have to look because you can get some drips from the decubitus ulcer, and so you want to make sure that's clear. And the only other time is the stabbings. Because if the person's been stabbed multiple times, you want to make sure that you have all the incisions closed. And sometimes they're on the back side. Same with gunshot wounds. So if you have a patient that's come in and you know they've died of gunshot wounds, you want to make sure that you look the entire body over. So you have to turn them and close up every incision or every bullet hole that individual may have. So, yeah, sometimes, you count them and you have to put it on your embalming report about how many incisions or holes you've actually taken care of and treated. And sometimes it's amazing how many times an individual gets shot or stabbed. So
amazing in the worst way, the worst connotation.
Way, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad that this man got justice. That's the moral of the story.
That's what I thought. And the companion was just totally beside herself. She had no reason to believe that the caregiver would have brought someone into the house, because that was part of the rules, that no one comes into the house with her.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, she said it was only the one time, but why the one time?
No. Yeah.
Would he go ahead and put a foot to the back of the man?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The whole thing, yeah.
Especially because I'm sure that was someone that she trusted.
Yes. And that's the downfall of the entire story. When you bring people into your house you think you trust, and all of a sudden the trust is broken in the worst way.
In the worst possible way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that is horrible. But I'm glad that he got justice and he's able to rest peacefully knowing that.
Correct. Yeah. And so it's very interesting. And even in other episodes, and I know that I've mentioned this in other episodes, where medical examiners actually asked that the embalming be done so that photographs could be taken as far as what bruising appears. We've done that.
Oh, yeah.
We've done that in an episode, right? So I just thought to myself, well, I've been asked to do this a lot of times. I'm just going to ask the family if I can embalm them and see what they do. So yeah, she ended up getting very grateful that it was done and that something was noted, because it creates closure to her, because for her, he was perfectly healthy.
He was fine. She went out on a walk and he was fine before.
Well, not only that, 2 days before, he was perfectly fine. All of a sudden, he shows up. He's dead at the house, and the caregiver finds him. So,
on the floor too,
Anyway, that's that story, Holly.
It's a good one.
It's good as it can be, I guess, right?
Oh, it's new to me, so it's good.
Okay. All right. There's going to be a lot of new ones to you, Holly.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've gathered already.
Okay, all right. Mm-hmm.
But no, I think that's great. Thank you for sharing again.
Absolutely.
We'll see if we can have you on next week as well.
Check my schedule. Let me check my schedule.
Yeah, we'll check the schedule.
Okay.
But Coffiners, thank you so much for hanging in there with us through this one. And come back next week for Scott.
And Fun and Funeral. If you have any questions, get them in.
Yep, get them in. Email us at letsbefrank@coffintalking.com or send us a DM on Instagram and we'll get back to you. But we'll see you next week.
Or if you have stories.
Oh, stories too.
Because stories are being told.
Love your stories.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen with you later. I was going to say talk to you later, but I don't know.
Talking.
You'll listen to us talk later.
And feel free to join in. Yeah.
Anytime. You're welcome.
There it is. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.